Hi kids, today I'm going to read you a Bible story. This one is Jonah and the Whale. Jonah was a prophet and was giving the word of the Lord to the Israelites. One day, the Lord spoke to Jonah, saying, "Go to Nineveh, that great city, and preach to it, for its wickedness rises up before me." But Jonah did not want to preach to the people of Nineveh, for they were the enemies of his land, the land of Israel. He wished Nineveh to die in its sins, and not to turn to God and live. So Jonah tried to run from where God wanted him to go. He went down to Joppa and took a ship for Tarshish, which was in the opposite direction of Nineveh. But the Lord saw Jonah on the ship and sent a great storm upon the sea, so that the ship seemed as though it would break up and sink. The sailors threw overboard everything on the ship, and when they could do no more, every man prayed to his own God to save the ship and themselves. During all of this, Jonah was fast asleep, and the ship's captain came to him and said, "How can you be sleeping in such a time as this? Awake, get up and call upon your God. Perhaps he will hear you and save our lives." But the storm continued to rage around the ship, and they said, "There is some man on this ship who has brought upon us this trouble. Let us cast lots and find who it is." Then they cast lots, and the lot fell to Jonah. They said to him all at once, "Tell us, who are you? From what country do you come? What is your business? To what people do you belong? Why have you brought all this trouble upon us?" Then Jonah told them the whole story, how he came from the land of Israel, and that he fled away from the presence of the Lord. And they said to him, "What shall we do to you, so the storm may cease?" Then said Jonah, "Take me up and throw me into the sea. Then the storm will cease, and the waters will be calm. For I know that it is because of my actions that this storm is upon you." But the men did not want to throw Jonah into the sea. They rowed desperately to bring the ship to the land, but they could not. Then they cried unto the Lord and said, "We earnestly pray, O Lord, do not let us die because of this man, and do not hold us accountable for his blood. For you, O Lord, have done as you pleased." At last, when they could do nothing else to save themselves, they threw Jonah into the sea. At once the storm ceased, and the waves became still. Then the men on the ship feared the Lord greatly. They offered a sacrifice to the Lord and made promises to serve him. And the Lord caused a great fish to swallow Jonah. And Jonah was alive within the fish for 3 days and 3 nights. That sounds disgusting. In the fish, Jonah cried to the Lord, thanking him for saving his life. And the Lord caused the great fish to vomit up Jonah upon the dry land. That means to throw him up. Like when you throw up because you're sick. Now the call of the Lord came to Jonah a second time. "Arise, go to Nineveh, that great city, and preach to it what I command you." So Jonah went to the city of Nineveh, and as he entered it, he called out to the people, "Within 40 days Nineveh shall be destroyed." And he walked through the city all day, crying out, "Within 40 days Nineveh shall be destroyed." And the people of Nineveh believed the word of the Lord, as spoken by Jonah. They turned away from their sins, and fasted, and sought the Lord, from the greatest of them even to the least. The king of Nineveh arose from his throne, and laid aside his royal robes, and covered himself with sackcloth, and sat in ashes, as a sign of his sorrow. And the king sent out a command to his people that they should fast, and seek the Lord, and turn from sin. And God saw that the people of Nineveh were sorry for their wickedness, and he forgave them, and did not destroy the city. That's unusual for a city that big to turn like that. It's pretty impressive. But this made Jonah very angry. He did not want the people of Nineveh to be saved, because they were the enemy of his own land, and also he feared that men would call him a false prophet when his word had not come to pass. And Jonah said unto the Lord, "Lord, I knew you would spare the city. That was the reason I tried to run away. For I know that you are a gracious God, full of pity, slow to anger, and rich in mercy. I knew you would save these wicked people. Now, O Lord, take away my life, for it is better for me to die than to live." And Jonah went out of the city and built a little hut to the east of it, and sat under its roof, to see whether God would keep the word that he had spoken. Then the Lord caused a plant with thick leaves to grow up, and to shade Jonah from the sun. And Jonah was glad, and sat under its shadow. but a worm destroyed the plant, and the next day a hot wind blew, and Jonah suffered from the heat. And again Jonah wished that he might die. But the Lord said unto Jonah, You had compassion on the plant, and were sorry to see it die, even though it lived only one day, and you did not even make it grow. Why should I have pity on Nineveh, a great city, where there are more than 100,000 people, many little children, and also many cattle and animals, all helpless and knowing nothing? This is a Bible story. You can have someone read to you in the Bible if you want. In the meantime, what does the story tell you? All the stories in the Bible have lessons, and this one is a particularly good lesson. It tells us that Jonah was very selfish. He didn't want to go to Nineveh and preach because he knew they would be saved, and he didn't want them saved. That's selfish, that he didn't want people to die, or that he did want them to die. We don't want anybody to die. Sometimes people have to die if they're being very bad. But it's never good to wish that somebody should die. And God tried to teach Jonah a lesson. He taught him two lessons. One, he punished him with the fish, and he also taught him a lesson with the plant going up and dying. It was a very good lesson. In the end, Jonah did what was right, as we should all do. I love you, kids. I miss you a lot. I'll talk to you later. Goodbye.